Alright, so it's been a few days. In the last clip you saw me, I was talking about removing the bell housing and getting the dowels sprayed with PV Blaster. So I did that. And our new dowels came in, as you can see. For my specific measurements and where my bell housing was sitting, I ordered the 0.004 offset dowels. So I am ready to get in there. They've been soaking, the stock dowels have been soaking in the PV Blaster for about 24 hours or so. My hope is I can get in there, just, give it a little bit of elbow grease and they'll come out. Worst case scenario, I have a friend that's done this and he mentioned using a slide hammer. So hopefully we can do it without. If not, we have a backup plan in case we can't do that. So the plan for today is, for me anyways, I don't know how long this video will be or anything like that, but planning to take out the stock dowels, put in our new dowels and get them oriented the way that they're supposed to be. So if you look at my messy bell housing here, I'll kind of reiterate this. So this is the high point on our index plate. So the dowels are like, there's one here and there's one here. So when you put them in there, the new dowels, there's orientation that they need to be in order to shift the bell housing essentially. So we're going to point them towards our high to get them to kind of shift the bell housing down that direction. So I need to keep that in mind when I'm installing them, that there's orientation that I'm going for, and yeah, we'll go from there. Again, all this stuff is covered by Joel Grannas at Grannas Racing, who provided this kit. So he has a really good video explaining the dowels. The stuff can kind of get confusing, but if you have any questions about it, check out his video. It can be confusing, and even watching other people explain it, you kind of have to figure it out. I was able to wrap my head around it somehow, but I can't explain it, and I don't know. I don't know why. Anyways, check out his videos if you have any questions, and if you want a more in-depth explanation of how that works. He has some good videos about it. Cool, let's get started. All right, so I'm back under the car, obviously. And I know that I mentioned doing the dowels last that you saw. However, I wasn't able to get the dowels out using just a vice grip and screwdriver, crowbar, whatever you want. It just wasn't gripping it enough. So I'm planning on getting a slide hammer with a dowel removal attachment deal. But in the meantime, I did get the pilot bearing in. And there you can see the dowels in the top, like top center screen, right here. And then there's one over to the right side, right there. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that. Something in my eye. I wasn't able to get that done when I wanted to, but I will. It's just a matter of getting that tool and getting in here and doing it. For the meantime, though, I decided to, if I can work around my flashlight here, this is the cut that has to be made for the transmission tunnel. So here's where the shifter, OEM shifter for the automatic hole is, and this is where we need to cut. Fortunately, paint pens don't work upside down very well. But as you can see, we're going to go through this hole, up, over, down, and then this section's what comes out. So we'll still have this hole here, and then there's two more down here that will bolt the it'll bolt the tunnel cover in place, and then we'll seam seal it. But I need to get my cutoff wheel and cut the bottom portion here. I need to get a towel. I'm going to get a towel and put the towel in the interior, covering this hole so I don't have sparks fly all over my interior. And then start cutting. And then there is a small piece that you need to cut on the inside too, but I'll show you guys that once we get there. So yeah, make sure that you get these wires out of the way before you do this. I'll try to, hopefully this works. If not, it won't be in the video. There's some wires right here in the interior. So make sure before you cut, you get those out of the way so they're not at jeopardy of being cut when you're doing it. So make sure those are tucked out of the way, and yeah, we'll get going. All right, so here we are on top. I just wanted to show you it's real fast. The section that we're cutting is through these, like near these bolt holes and up here. So I tucked my wires down as far from here as I can, a couple inches. And then I have this wire that's for my speakers, or for my stereo, and it was kind of loose, so I just took a zip tie momentarily to pull that up and out of the way, and then I can cut that in. Move this wire later, but we are going to need to cut this. There's like these little ribs in here. Grab the light real fast. There's a little light, or little ribs in there that we're going to have to also trim. So that's the part we're gonna have to come back up here to cut, but we'll want to make sure that those wires are out of the way for that as well. So yeah, we'll throw a towel on this. Throw a towel over here. Try to limit how much sparks come through. I mean, make sure that your towel obviously is not touching where you're cutting, and so your blade doesn't catch on to that. But yeah, there we go, and we will we'll be good to cut. Just want to make sure that I don't have sparks flying everywhere in my interior. This towel somewhat catch some of those. So we'll get out of the car and do our cuts. So as you can see, I've got my my face shield covering. Being under sparks is fine. What I worry about is the wheels, cutoff wheels spinning at the 10,000 RPM. So I got my face shield on. I recommend it. Safety equipment first. And we'll get up here and make the cut. Plate. So I'll get in here and clean this edges up, and we'll be good to go, hopefully. Sweet. All right, so when you get up here, these are the last cuts you need to make. As you can see, sleeve got cut. I made the cuts. They are basically little notches in these brackets here. This one's easier to see. Essentially, you do that on both sides, and then once you do that, here's our new tunnel cover. You can slide this in place, and your OEM holes here will line up. And the one OEM hole that you didn't cut through on the bottom will line up with the hole here. So I'll show you. The hole on this side where the bracket lines up. This one we cut through part of it, so we might be able to use that, but that's the one that we're focusing on using. And then it'll line up with this one, and you can access that. So yeah, we'll try to test fit this in and then make the move to seam seal it from underneath the car. So yeah, there we go. Throw some bolts in here. It's been a few days. I think last I showed I was working on trying to get the dowel pins out. I did end up getting one of the pins out. However, the other one is being quite a pain. I've been trying to work on it, so I ended up just buying an actual dowel pin removal tool, which will be in the next couple days. But earlier today, my buddy Eric, that came down earlier in the series, came down earlier today, and we took the trans out. As you can see here, we mounted the shifter onto, well, the shifter. There's like a adapter extension thing. It places it into the right spot. So we put that together. We put the trans cross member together, and we test fit the transmission in to check the transmission tunnel that I had cut to make sure that we had all the clearance we needed and I didn't need to do any more cutting. So good news, we had it in, everything fit, and we can keep moving forward. So what I'm going to get to right now is doing the seam sealer and painting the tunnel to finish that off. And then hopefully when that tool comes in the next couple days, I'll be able to pull that other dowel out, get our new dowel pins in, put the clutch assembly in, blah, 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 trans in, drive shaft in. We still got a few things to do before then, obviously, but we're getting there. And I really wish I would have taken pictures or recorded having the trans in. It was obviously it's not a permanent thing, we're just testing it out, but it was very nice to see that in position and know that everything fits and mounts up and all that stuff. So for the time being, we put it right back into the box, and we will get that in before too long. So let's get on the car and do the seam sealer. All right, guys, welcome back. I don't know how long it's been since the last clip of whatever of me doing this dowel pin. I've been stuck on it for off and on a few weeks now. I feel like I've done everything else I can up till now, and I've hit it with all sorts of different techniques to try and break it loose and get it out of there, and nothing's panned out. I'll show you what it looks like down below when we get a second, but for the meantime, I want to walk you through what I'm going to do while I'm up here so I can kind of give you a visual, because I don't think I'll be able to get any good filming of it done. So basically what I've done is I drilled a hole through it. So here's the other dowel pin. So essentially what I've done is I just drilled through the middle of this, and I have a tap, so I'm going to tap it and thread it, and then once it's threaded, I have this setup going on here. So obviously this bolt is the same size as our tap, so essentially how this works is tap it, you get this bolt contraption I've got going on here, a couple washers and a nut, hopefully that's picking up, and a socket. So the socket, the washers sit on top of the socket, nut on the outside. We'll put it in, we'll thread it into our new threading, and once it's tight and whatnot, we will start to move our nut towards the dowel pin, and as you move it, the outside of the socket pushes pushes on the outside of where that dowel pin sits, so on basically the block, and we'll keep moving this nut, and as you screw it towards the dowel pin, it'll pull the bolt this way, and as long as those threads stay in the dowel pin should come out with the bolt. So I know it's worked for people, so we'll give it a shot and hope for the best. And here we go. I just figured I wouldn't be able to get like a good angle on that portion, that light just turned on that portion while I'm under the car, so I wanted to give you a quick demonstration of essentially what I'm doing, since you won't actually probably be able to see it very well. So we'll jump down there. I'll show you the hole that I drilled into the dowel pin, and then I'll start threading. So here is our dowel pin. As you can see, there is a hole in there, if it focuses. And I will start tapping. I do want to be very slow about this so that we get nice taps. Unfortunately, it looks like my hole isn't centered, and the walls aren't very thick in part of it, so we'll hope for the best. I'll update you when I get moving here. Alright, so we got the dowel pin out. As you saw in the last clip where I showed you how we did it, that's the technique that worked. I struggled a little bit. It seemed like the threading on the bolt I was using was a little soft, and they would always, it seemed like they would fail, but the threading inside of the dowel pin was fine, and I was having a hard time with it. I wasn't quite sure what to do. My buddy Matt offered to come by and check it out. He's a machinist by trade, and he came over, just wanted to see what was going on and see if he had any advice to give me. He decided that it needed more threads, so he drilled a little further. I left some space just because I didn't want to damage the hole that the dowel pin fits into. He came over, measured the other pin, and was like, oh yeah, you still got, however much space. And he drilled a little further and then tapped the rest of that hole, and he was able to get it out. So this is what it looks like on the end of this bolt that broke in the process. So obviously you've seen the other dowel pin. It's the same size. They're only probably about an inch, without measuring, I'm guessing, an inch long. And now we can move on, finally. So the plan moving forward now, we need to put the new dowel pins in. Remember that they are offset to center the bell housing better than the factory dowel pins. So we took that measurement with factory dowel pins in, and we ordered the offset dowel pins from Grannas. So we need to put those in and then throw the bell housing on with the flywheels right here. You can't see it, it's out of frame, but we'll throw this in and put the bell housing on. We'll re-index it just to make sure that our new dowel pins kind of, dial that center in for the bell housing. And once that's done, I'll probably pull the bell housing back off, Probably pull the flywheel back out so I can clean it up nice and put some thread lock on the bolts and then torque those down. We'll grab our clutch and our clutch alignment tool and get going on that stuff. After the clutch and flywheel and all that is in with the bell housing, we need to measure for our hydraulic release bearing where it's going to sit in the transmission. Get that put on and retained. There's some bolts to kind of retain that in position, and we'll get that in. We'll be able to slap the transmission in, drive shaft in, exhaust on, bleed the clutch, adjust the pedal. I didn't adjust the pedal, I just kind of put it in place initially. So we'll have to go in and adjust that for sure. I know it's way out. I didn't even put a guess on where that clutch pedal should be sitting. So we need to adjust the clutch pedal and bleed it, and then we also need to add the transmission fluid, and I'm going to do diff fluid too because all the other fluid's going to be done, so might as well. And then we'll be good to drive it, and it's kind of crazy. Obviously all this stuff is like not happening right now. I'm not planning to get all this done in this video, but that's where we're at for the rest of the project. So sure, it kind of still sounds like a lot for some people, but in hindsight, when you compare it to everything else that we had to do, like, pretty minimal. Oh, and we need to do the wiring. This is the wiring for the transmission. So that gives you like Bluetooth access to transmission stuff and adjusting your speedometer and all that stuff. So we will do that as well. So dowel pins and then clutch and stuff. We're getting there.